I'm not a religious man, but The Prince of Egypt is one of my favorite movies of all time. It managed to take a story from the Bible that essentially boils down to God tells Moses to tell the pharaoh to free the Hebrews, Pharaoh says no, plagues happen until he says yes, into a beautifully written family drama about two brothers torn apart by inconsolable differences. It's Dreamwork's magnum opus and the best animated movie ever made, and it's not even close. Uh-oh, that was a genuine thought I just had. Hold on, I can fix this. There we go. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas as Moses? I wake up. Doc Mitchell asks me my name. I tell him Moses because I read the title of the video, and make myself look like Hulk Hogan because of that fake image that got shared around a while back. I walk over to the vigor tester and assign my special stats. I go with 9 strength to be able to swing big melee weapons, 1 perception because for once I'm not going for a crit build, 9 endurance because this is a melee build, 1 charisma, both because this is New Vegas and because of a line from the Book of Exodus about Moses being uncharismatic, 9 intelligence because this is New Vegas, 6 agility, which is to be raised to 7 for Slayer, and 5 luck because why not? I choose melee weapons, speech, and unarmed as my skills, and heavy-handed and skilled as my traits. Alright. Time to explain how the fuck this challenge is going to work. The short version is that this will be a fusion of Nurbit's Can You Beat Fallout New Vegas' Abraham Lincoln and Authentic Animation's Can You Beat Fallout New Vegas Without Breaking the 10 Commandments. The long version is that I have to free every slave and not break the 10 Commandments, which is slightly more complicated than it sounds. For starters, and this is going to sound like a stupid question, how do we define a slave? Well, for the purposes of this video, we're going to define them as anyone being held captive for an illegitimate reason. And as for the 10 Commandments, well, let's go down the list and explain. And keep in mind, I'm using the Hebrew Bible version because Moses was Jewish. 1. You shall not have the gods of others in my presence. Well, you can't really be religious in this game, so that's a non-issue. 2. You shall not make for yourself a graven image. This isn't Fallout 4, you can't build shit, so it's not a problem. 3. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. I'm like 99% positive you can't do this. I can't think of a single dialogue option that lets you do that, but if I see one, I'll let you know. 4. Remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it. Jews believe that Saturday is the Sabbath, so when that rolls around, I need to stick my thumb up my ass and take a nap. 5. Honor your father and your mother. They ain't in this game, they can't tell you what to do, so I'll keep an eye out for dialogue disparaging them. But aside from the psychological exam Doc Mitchell gives you, I'm not confident such dialogue exists. 6. You shall not murder. Note that it says murder, not kill. I'm interpreting this to mean that self-defense is A-okay. If the compass turns red, they're as good as dead.
Oh, so you're gonna act like a psychopath as per usual. Lovely.
Shut the fuck up, voice in my head. Anyway, 7. You shall not commit adultery. Just don't sleep with anyone. Easy. 8. You shall not steal. If the game says it's stealing, I can't take it. Well, with one exception, but we'll get to that. 9. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Just don't lie. And 10. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. Don't be a loot goblin, only take what you need. One last thing, Moses is known for carrying a staff, so the only weapons I'm allowed to use are staff-like two-handed melee weapons. I step outside and immediately shove my thumb up my ass because this game starts on a Saturday. I buy a shovel from Chet, talk with Sunny Smiles about learning how not to get shot in the face, and she takes me ball shooting. This doesn't fail the challenge, balls don't have HP. I then return to the bar and notice a bastard man accosting the local bartender. I talk with her and discover that they have tracked down and cornered the least talented beetle. According to my incredibly liberal definition of slavery, Mr. Star is in need of liberating, so we come up with a plan where I convince the townsfolk to help fend off the escaped convicts while Ringo hulls in the corner and shits himself. Now that that's over with, I make my way to Prim to see about that package that done got stolen when I got shot in the face. I talk with Johnson Nash, and he says that Deputy Dog knows my attackers went, so I bust into the Bison Steve and vigorously self-defend my way to the man. After freeing him, he tells me my attackers went, and requests that I find a new sheriff. Seeing as how the people of Prim are currently huddled up in a dilapidated casino like a bunch of little bitches, I offer to help. I decide that I want a sheriff with a soul, so Prim Slim is out. And martial law doesn't sound that much better than convict law, so Sheriff Myers it is. I encroach on Powderganger territory and kill them when they start shooting me. I'm not abusing the self-defense loophole, what are you talking about? After killing all of his friends, I offer a job to Myers, and he accepts because when someone breaks down your door, slaughters everyone in the room but you, and then offers you a job, it's within your best interest to say yes. Make my way to the Mojave Outpost, I convince Major Knight that having a sheriff in a strategically important town is a good idea, and he gives Myers a get-out-of-jail-free pass. While I'm in the area, I learn that caravans are being held up because ants have colonized the local underpass. Well, even when I'm playing as a semi-pacifist, I'm still a bloodthirsty psychopath at heart, so I kill the ants, and Ranger Jackson gives me a pat on the back and also some misappropriated military swag. I offer to find out what's with the billowing cloud of smoke coming from Nipton for Ranger Ghost, and along the way witness one of the rare instances of Jacqueline triumphing over Thomas. I tell her to watch out for strangers, and she thanks me for this advice by trying to murder me. I cave her skull with my shovel, and my soul screams out in agony when I realize I'm not allowed to do the same to Oliver Swanwick. I enter Nipton and discover that a furry and his skirt-wearing friends have decimated the town. I am unable to retaliate to this atrocity due to the whole no murder thing, but I do pop in to see boxcars and discover that some powder gangers got enslaved. Put a pin in that though, we have some other things to do before that. I report to Sergeant Kilborn and Ranger Ghost that the NCR suck at their job, and make my way to Novak. Here's a little Bible trivia for you. Remember when I told you about that passage about Moses being a mush-mouthed bastard? Well, to compensate for this, he recruited his brother Aaron to talk for him. So the way I see it, I need to recruit a companion. And I can think of no one better than everyone's favorite anti-Legion sniper, Boone. To that end, I sneak up on a sniper in the middle of the night, don't get my brains blown out, and offer to find out who kidnapped his wife. I receive a revelation that the evidence I need is in the motel safe, and shockingly, taking this isn't considered stealing, so I break open the safe, take the evidence, convince Gina May to stand in front of the dinosaur, and Boone revokes her breathing privileges, earning me a new bestest buddy. Now that I have Boone, I think it's high time to free some slaves. I walk over the bridge to Nelson, where clearly Ranger Milo never went to church because he has no idea who Moses is. He informs us the Legion have some MCR soldiers held captive, and he wants Boone and I to slit their throats so Milo's squad of pussies can storm in and wipe out the Legion. Well, that sounds like murder to me, so instead we walk down to the camp and the Legion starts shooting, meaning every horrible thing Boone and I are about to do to them is self-defense. That's how that works, right? After smacking the lights out of every crimson-wearing son of a bitch in the vicinity, we free the captives, Boone trauma dunts on me, and we walk down the street and discover that the NCR can't keep their troops safe to save their fucking lives. Private Reynolds pleads with us to save his friends from, put a gun to my head, I couldn't pronounce that, cave. The Legion's used sports equipment is no match for my mighty shovel, and after I'm done bouncing my shovel at their machetes until they die of heart attacks, I free the prisoners, Reynolds rewards me with a big fat stack of nothing, and we teleport to Ranger Station Charlie because there's one last piece of Legion slavery in the area. Boone and I sneak up on the camp and wait for the perfect moment to swoop in and I'm just fucking with you, they spot us immediately and start blasting, so we return fire and free the slaves the John Brown way. Boone expresses frustration at the NCR's incompetence. Don't we all, brother? But the rest of the story will have to wait, because I need to go to shepherd some zombies to the promised land. I talk with Manny Vargas about Benny, and as per usual, he won't tell me shit until I evict some corpses from the local rocket ship dealership. I make my way down there, and my Aunt Shirley tells me to meet them in the back. I send the filthy zombies back to hell where they belong, and find out that I wasn't talking to Aunt Shirley, but a man who's about 3 cigarettes away from keeling over. I'm told to talk to the human Nightlight, who in turn requests the removal of the local super mutant population in exchange for fucking off. I talk with Davison, who wants a stash of stealth boys he believes are in the facility, but a jackass with a hunting rifle is blocking the way. It seems everyone here is a fan of the barter system, because he offers to fuck off in exchange for finding his girlfriend. On the way to the jail cells, the jailer spots us, and Boone turns into God for a moment by blowing up the Nightkin's brain and setting himself on fire. I loot the jail key, discover that Harlan's girlfriend is dead as shit, get spotted by a pair of mutants on the way back and am forced to put them down, tell Harlan that he's dancing with himself tonight, and get spotted by another mutant and put him down. I discover that there's no stealth boys here, but it seems that all this legitimate self-defense has enraged Davison because he loses his shit and attacks me. Several strikes to the head later and he's down for the count. I report the good news to Jason, and everyone moves to the basement for the fetch quest portion of the mission. Chris requests some rocket fuel and some thrust control modules. I receive a revelation that there's some fuel down by the old power plant, and I sweet talk an old lady to get a discount on the modules and deliver them to Chris. Jason reveals that Chris is not a ghoul, just a balding, cigarette-smoking loser. I convince him that people aren't so bad and send the ghouls to the moon so they can draw a Lenin face on it. Now that that shit's over with, Maine tells me that Benny and the cons went, so we start making our way to Boulder City when a Legion hit squad rears their fugly mugs, and after the ensuing carnage, I rip a super sledge from one of their cold, dead hands.
Which will be used exclusively for self-defense, right?
Among other things, yes. My soul screams out in pain for a second time as I pass Private Kowalski without getting him so much as a love tap, and offer to mediate the situation with the Great Khans. I briefly consider brandishing my weapon in order to antagonize these kidnappers into a fight, but that feels like a bridge too far even for my Weasley ass, so instead I talk with Jessup and convince him to release the hostages for their freedom, get gifted a lighter covered in yellow tinfoil, and convince Lieutenant Monroe that executing people who made a good faith deal with you is morally repugnant. I start for Vegas and stumble across Aerotech Office Park and talk with the local drunken reprobate Frank Weathers. His family done got by the Legion, and he's too much of a little bitch to go get him himself, so he offers all the lint in his pockets for me to get them back. They'll have to wait till later though, because first I need to track down some missing refugees. I talk with Captain Parker, and he explains that a little girl went missing, and points me towards some scavengers in Westside. I talk with one of them, who claims he don't know nothing about no missing refugees from Aerotech, a detail only the perpetrator would know, and I just waltz into his partner's room and discover a ledger detailing all the slavery they've committed. That's not enough to arrest them, I discover, so I double back and purchase the key to St. Jada's room from a local whore and find the little girl's teddy bear. I consider bringing the wrath of God down upon these slaver bastards, but ultimately decide just to report them to the captain and let justice take its course. Alright, I admit this next one is pushing it even by my Weasley lawyer-like standards, but the next order of business is to free the vault dwellers trapped in Vault 34. I boop some lizards on the nose with a rolled-up newspaper and enter the cave of radioactive wonders. I put the local ghouls out of my misery, get water in my lungs trying to recover some keycards, drain some water using a nearby terminal, pick up some Vault 34 armor and give it to Boone, smash the ankles of the Overseer, and give access to the computer system to the remaining Vault dwellers, freeing them. Since I'm nearby to Camp McCarran, I talk with Colonel James Sue and offer to rescue Bryce Sanders. Upon approaching Vault 3, the fiends start firing at us, so I take this opportunity to educate them about the cycle of violence by violently smashing their heads in. After defending myself against the fiends in their own home, I find some prisoners, relieve the prison guard of his key and also his life, free the prisoners, find Bryce Sanders, and discover that he isn't truly trapped here, but simply refusing to leave out of an overzealous work ethic. If the fiends find him, he's a dead man, so I defend his life by killing the shit out of Motor Runner. I enter Freeside, witness someone make it past the greeters and then just stand there and get shot. Victor tells me it's time to meet the big man upstairs, and I tell him to eat shit and die and make my way to the tops. For once I don't convince Swank that Benny needs to have a lighter shoved up his ass, and instead have a chat with Benny and play the role of a big dumb idiot dumb guy and agree to meet him for a private meeting. Turns out Benny is a two-timing varmint, who would have thunk it, but I managed to convince him that I'm not worth the ammo, so he just fucks off to the fort. I'm once again forced to experience a free trial of death by taking a long protracted nap because it's Saturday. Once that's over with, I start for Cottonwood Cove when I find First Sergeant Astor, who asked me to put down some soldiers who have gone feral. I brave the spicy air to put the soldiers out of their misery and grow a fifth nut in the process. I then discover Private Edwards valiantly cowering inside a house. He won't step foot outside until all the nasty little scorpions are gone. Fucking arachnophobes, they're just a bunch of scorpions. Just step on them and holy shit, kill them with fire! Ahem. After I deal with the scorpions, I convince First Sergeant Astor to let Private Edwards rejoin his group and get rewarded with a gun I'll never use. We finally make it to Cottonwood Cove. I let Anders down from his cross, and Boone gets one whiff of crimson and starts blasting. After defending ourselves from the situation that was in no way our fault, I relieve the Weathers family key from the battered corpse of Canyon Runner and free them. We then take the raft to the fort, and unfortunately we can't emancipate any of the slaves here because Joss Sawyer said no. We can, however, emancipate some legionary souls from their bodies. This includes the chief douchebag himself, who goes down like a sack of shit. I then free Benny from his binds, enter the weather station basement, and talk with Mr. House. Now it seems like as good a time as any to tell you that I'm siding with Mr. House this playthrough, and that's for two reasons. You can't finish any of the other storylines without murdering him. Even if you just unplug him from the mainframe, he will tell you that he's been exposed to pathogens from the outside air and he'll be dead in a year. Mechanically this isn't killing him, but morally it is.
You've clearly been bending the rules around your propensity for violence so far. Seems weird to start giving a shit about morality now.
Well, he's also literally the big man in the sky. The fuck you want from me?
Acceptable.
Anyway, Boone and I clear out the basement, upgrade the Securitrons, and I lose my goddamn mind trying to figure out why the dialogue to trigger Boone's companion quest isn't showing up. Turns out I forgot to ask Manny about Bitter Springs. Oops. After I fix that mistake, Boone tells me about the war crimes he committed, and I suggest a little exposure therapy to calm his soul. We arrive at Bitter Springs. Boone gives me the backstory of the night of the war crimes and asks to stay the night. We are woken by the sounds of slavery in progress, and like the good Samaritans we are, spring into action. Violent, bloody action. After all traces of crimson have been expunged from the area, Boone expresses disappointment about not dying in a blaze of glory, and I inform him that this means he gets to keep popping Legion heads. This cheers him up, he receives the first recon survival armor, and doesn't put it on because the Vault 34 armor is better. Alright, the next mission I fully admit does not involve slavery in any way, shape, or form, but it has a good reward that will help me with the quest that does, so bear with me, we're going to Jacobstown. I arrive at the lodge and talk with Doc Henry. He's trying to figure out why the local Night Stalkers have turned invisible. I offer to help, and on my way out of town, Marcus asks me to mediate a standoff. I inform the ruffians that if they attack the town, they will be dealing with both the super mutants and me. They promptly shit themselves and fuck off. I enter Charleston Cave and just start swinging wildly to fend off the invisible Night Stalkers. I quickly reach the bottom and get what I came here for. Not the chewed up stealth boy, fuck that, but oh baby.
I'm like, oh baby, oh baby. And she's like, yeah.
I return to Doc Henry, mangled stealth boy in hand. He decides to run a test on Lily, everyone's third favorite super mutant. She agrees to do so, the doc runs the test, an asshole shows up and demands the prototype. I point out that letting a bunch of schizophrenics with roid rage run rampant is a shit idea, and tell the doc to continue to let Lily use the prototype stealth boy, a thing that has no in-game effect. Now that I have the world's biggest stick, I think it's high time I freed Danny Trejo from the clutches of a super mutant in a shitty wig. As I approach Black Mountain, Neil tells me to fuck off, but I deduce that he's not a fan of Tabitha, and I offer to help him dethrone the Mad Tyrant. The walk up the mountain is nothing special, unless you count me juggling a bunch of super mutants like a Street Fighter. That was pretty special. I then arrive at the summit. Neil tricks the Night Kid into abandoning their post. The remaining guard manages to miss me with a goddamn missile launcher. I punish him for his incompetence, free Raoul, and sweep Tabitha's leg and send her to hell. Just a couple more slaves/captives to go, and our next stop is the Ultralux, because they're eating people over there, and I'm pretty sure human isn't kosher. But first I stop by Mr. Holdout to purchase some firepower for Boone, and then talk to Heck Gunderson about his missing son. He requests I go find the young lad, so I talk with Marjorie about the disappearance, and she unprompted goes, "Cannibalism? We've never committed any cannibalism. Cannibalism's just a myth." I reorient the conversation toward the missing kid, and she tells me to go bother Mortimer about that, so I do. He tells me there's another investigator looking into a different disappearance, and he gives me a key to his room and tells me to knock him dead. So I go talk with the man, and it turns out the White Gloves knocked him dead, and they try and knock me dead too. But I foresaw this happening, which is why I armed Boone with the pocket pea shooter. Detective Cadaver had a matchbook on him that says to meet someone in the sun at 4, so I return my thumb to its natural resting position, which is of course up my ass, and talk with the informant, who spills the beans about all the cannibalism. After he's done singing like a canary, an assassin shows up and murks his ass, and he and Boone have a plinking each other contest. Spoiler alert, the guy in armor wins. At this point I realize I need to improve my strip reputation to continue, so I make a pit stop to the top to talk with Sammy Davis Jr. to start the talent pool quest. Not really much to say here. I talk with the Axe, get them to sign with Tommy Torini, he gives me some money, and my newfound status as a talent manager earns me an invite to the White Glove Society. I then use my newfound membership to sneak into the Ultralux kitchen, psychobabble my way past the chef, tell the truth about who kidnapped him to Ted Gunderson, convince him not to go apeshit on the White Gloves, create an imitation meat pie, have it served for dinner, wait for Mortimer to explain his evil plan, and then jump out and go, "Haha, you stupid fucking moron bitch, that wasn't human, it was bullshit!" He then responds, curses, foiled again, and runs off without any resistance. I then reunite Ted with his dad, tell the truth to Heck, he wants to starve the strip over this, but I convince him that starving the strip is a good way to ensure more cannibalism, so he rescinds his threat. One last job to do, and that's the quest Bye Bye Love, aka run across the strip in Freeside and talk to people for 15 minutes, the quest. But first I have to take a 24-hour nap because Saturday night is the loneliest night of the week. I talk with Joanna in the Gomorrah courtyard and point out that Medex is a hell of a drug. This gets her to open up about her boyfriend, and I promise to track him down. I find him at the bottom of a bottle at the bottom of a shitty hotel. He has a plan to get her out of that shithole and into a nice regular hole, but first I have to make sure she's on board. I double back to Gomorrah and confirm yes, she would very much like to not be an unwilling prostitute. Returning to Carlitos, he tells me to recruit some dickheads who use their beards as substitutes for personalities and have everyone meet in Freeside at midnight. I talk to the bearded gentlemen. I don't ask about their beard growing techniques, only a fucking loser would do that. Recruit them for the plan, meet up with Joanna at midnight, escort her and her friends out the front door, meet up with Carlitos, and find out that this plan fucking sucks. I can't talk my way out of this one because that involves lying, so I'm forced to bludgeon them to death with my giant ass stick. That's a stick of the giant ass variety, not a giant ass stick. Carlitos and Joanna then thank me and live a long and happy life together, and by that I mean they despawn as soon as they leave Freeside. There, that's it. That's every slave and captive in the game freed. We can finish the main quest now.
What about the crew from Dead Money?
Fuck. Okay, let's talk about Dead Money. I want to like this DLC. I really do. The writing is top-notch, the concept is great, and the atmosphere is exquisite, but the execution is annoying as shit. It's annoying having to scavenge for supplies after having all of yours taken away. It's annoying having to navigate the villa's maze-like design. It's annoying having to go at a snail's pace looking out for booby traps. It's annoying having to wade through mountains of dialogue options trying to figure out which is the correct choice to continue the goddamn quest. And the constant beeping of the collar is the most annoying thing of all. Anyway, Father Elijah informs me that I'm his bitch, and he tells me to fetch his other bitches so we can Ocean's 11 our way into the casino. I quickly find a knife spear embedded in a skeleton that I'm sure died of natural causes, and have a lovely reception with the local sewer mutants, and enter the police station. I acquire a gun and some real armor, enter the basement, the voice of God starts speaking to me, that's not a joke oddly enough, I acquire his voice, and have a less than pleasant conversation with a crazy ass nutjob. The TLDR is that he has a split personality, one of them a ravenous but obedient nincompoop named Dog, and the other an intellectual control freak named God, though I don't think his name is ever said out loud. I decide that I'd rather deal with the smart one, so I convince him that I'm on his side by not forcibly bringing out the other personality, and he agrees to shadow me to my next recruit. Next on the list is Dean Domino, and thank dog I have God with me, because as I said before, having to stop and disarm every trap, lest you get your legs blown off, is annoying as fuck. Anyway, I make it to Dean, I take a seat next to him, and he informs me that if I make one false move, he'll plaster the moon with my ass.
Who the fuck starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
It's a common misconception that passing any of the skill checks here will cause him to turn on you later, but actually it's just the ones that wound his massive but fragile ego by making him feel like he's not in control. So I avoid informing him that our lives are tied together and he agrees to meet us by the fountain. Next up is the clinic, and this one is a cinch. I just pop the hologram projectors with my piece, again this doesn't fail the challenge, they don't have health bars, acquire the key to the basement, play charades with a mute, and recruit her to the team. Alright, everyone's at the fountain, time to get into position. I escort God to an electrical switching station, but the big baby says he's hungry and sends me to fetch him some food. And by food, I mean some mangled corpses of the local sewer mutants. I get him his food, he agrees to stay put, and next on the chopping block is Dean. I escort him through some ghost people infested streets, get him in position, tell him to stay put, and he promptly tells me to go fuck myself. I compromise and get him some laser powered bodyguards, and he decides that's enough to get him to do his fucking job. That just leaves Christine. I escort her to another, more different switching station, run around in circles trying to disable all the fucking speakers, pick up a key-shaped key, find a password for a remote terminal, and give Christine access to do her task. Now, I know this is the pot calling the kettle black here, but getting the remote terminal up and running is so easy that if you force her to use the maintenance shaft, you're just a goddamn psychopath. Now all that's left is to get myself into position and start the event. I piss my pants running through a horde of ghost people, confirm that everyone's in position, flip a switch, and shit my pants running away from an even bigger horde of ghost people. I enter the casino and get a face full of mustard gas. Thankfully it's some of that newfangled non-lethal mustard gas, so I wake up with a splitting headache and a painful erection, but am otherwise unharmed. Elijah tells me to flip the circuit breaker, so I do, and now I have to deal with my friend, no, co-worker, no, mutual pawns, let's go with that. First I talk with Dog, who appears to be having a psychotic break, so I use my impeccable speech skill to convince him to merge his two crazy-ass nutjob personalities into a nice regular personality. I don't think that's how that works, but I'll roll with it. Next I need to deal with Dean. As I elected not to spit in his face, he instructs me on the proper procedure to deactivate the security system. The dipshit almost gets me killed when he instructs me to go left when he really meant right, but otherwise his instructions see me through, and I deactivate the security system by playing a Dean Domino song called Saw Her Yesterday, which is clearly just a snippet of Bing Crosby's Something's Gotta Give. Dean then gives me the lowdown on his centuries-long ego-driven heist plan, and I don't give a fuck. Finally, I have to deal with Christine. I haven't had a problem with the hologram so far, but the Scarlet hologram is special because it can open doors, so it murders me more than a few times. Eventually I make it to Christine, she explains her motivation for tracking down Elijah, I still don't give a fuck, and return to the lobby so I can slice together Scarlet's voice into the vault, a thing that Christine could have just unlocked for me. Inside the vault, I trick Elijah into facing me man to man, then sneak out the vault while throwing my nose at him and going neener neener neener. I then arrive back at the fountain with my bomb collar off. It is never explained how that happens, and with that, I've freed every slave and captive in the game.
What about Eddie from Lonesome Road?
Robots don't count, jackass! Now that I'm done being Elijah's bitch, it's time to get back to being Mr. House's bitch. I re-recruit Boone, and then the first order of business is to deliver the platinum chip to House and endure his presentation that manages to bore me with explosions. Next I make my way to Nellis Air Force Base, and my soul screams out in agony for a third time as I'm unable to kill George. I endure the mortar barrage, get taken before Pearl, and she requests I help her on the base in exchange for a big fat stack of nothing. I start by talking to Raquel about her ant problem, and she tells me to go bother Loyo about that. So I do, and he gives me an MP3 player loaded with, you know what, this joke has run its course. He also requests that I fix the solar panels while I'm at it, so I do. I place the sonic emitter, send the ants to the great picnic in the sky, restart the generators, report my successes, and use the power of God to heal the wounded because, and I cannot stress this enough, fuck young hearts, all my homies hate young hearts. After that, it's just a matter of raising the bomb from the lake, and the boomers are ready to drop explosive ordnance on the Legion and also anyone else they feel like murdering that day. Next on the docket is the Omertas. Now, full disclosure, you can't finish How Little We Know without stealing Caccino's journal, but morally speaking, I would argue that taking his journal is collecting evidence of a crime, so I put it to a vote as to whether or not this is stealing, and an overwhelming majority of you said taking the journal was A-okay. I shove my hand up Caccino's ass and take his journal, show it to him, and he tells me about the boss's plans in exchange for not ratting him out. He tells me they hired some specialists and they sure as shit ain't doing charity work, so I need to stop them. Well, getting rid of Clendon either involves stealing his snuff tapes or murdering him, so I'll just deal with Troik. Troik is smuggling guns for the Omertos on account of having murdered a stripper in a Kim-induced rage. I offer to get him out of his contract in exchange for busting up the boss's plans, and I convince Big Sal that Troik is more shook out than a marionette puppet, getting him out of his contract and allowing me to burn the guns. Now we need to confront the bosses, and for once I have backup that actually knows which end of the gun kills people, so Big Sal and Nero meet their end on the first try, and everyone lives happily ever after. Except the people who got killed, they're burning in hell. Now to deal with everyone's favorite faction of power-armored dickheads, the Brotherhood of Steel. Boone and I knock on their door asking for a cup of sugar, and they respond by telling us to strip naked and relinquish all of our gear. Is Moses going to let the Brotherhood take him prisoner and slap a slave collar on him? It's such a hard decision. Yeah, I smashed them into thick red chunks. I then defend myself all the way into their bunker. I defend myself against Elder McNamara, Head Paladin Hardin, and especially Head Scribe Taggart, who tried to run away from me while yelling, "Retreat!"
Jesus Christ, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Many things, voice in my head. Many things. Anyway, I activate the self-destruct sequence, step outside the bunker, and listen to the sound of dozens of souls ascending to heaven. With all the lesser factions sorted out, it's time for a series of Legion assassins to try and rearrange President Kimball's brain matter. I talk with Ranger Grant. He fills me on the details of the visit, I find a pool of blood, and am too stupid to deduce that anything is wrong. That's okay, because this quest is more predictable than Old Faithful. Just crouch next to a manhole cover in the sky, wait for an asshole to pop out, revoke the wannabe Lee Harvey Oswald's existence privileges, and report to the Secret Service that I did their job for them. After that, we just need to install the override chip into the El Dorado substation, and it's off to the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. The big man in the sky told me to install another override chip, so I waltz past the NCR soldiers guarding the central control, and they get very mad and I'm forced to euthanize them. After installing the chip, I activate the Securitrons at the fort, they annihilate the remaining legionaries, and I confront the legate. Under normal circumstances, I convince him to fight mano-a-mano, but since there's an option to convince him to lay down his arms, given the challenge, I decide to make an exception and talk him down. All that leaves is Oliver, and he succumbs to my maxed out speech skill, and he decides to leave with his tail between his legs, proving yes, you can beat Foe New Vegas as Moses. So just in case it wasn't obvious, the joke here is that I ostensibly play as a man of peace while simultaneously acting like a bloodthirsty psychopath. I'd also like to shout out fellow creator and voice in my head, CauseLoop25. Go check him out, I even appear in his latest video. Got any final thoughts, buddy?
You took God's name in vain 4 times, failing the challenge.
Fuck! Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. My name is Mr. Monto96, and I'll see y'all later.